2 years ago, I went to the Codomotion, and the last talk was just incredible. And there was Matteo there, and the title was "There's no such thing as luck." That's right. Yeah, I think it's the best talk I ever watched. I had this T-shirt. I was among the people watching that. But and we'll talk now with Matteo about NodeJS, Pino, Fastify, a lot of things. So how are you, Matteo?
I'm fine to be here. Very happy. It's it seems so long ago when I was at Codemotion. That, by the way, was probably my best talk ever, and I really wanted to deliver the talk at that audience at that point in time because I thought it would be really inspiring for the Italian, for the whole overall Italian community, and not just that, probably everybody. I will always recommend to watch it. So maybe in this video you will see, you will find a link somewhere in some box, somewhere else. So there will be a link to the talk. Go and watch it. It's really important. It's to some extent it tells a lot about my story and my journey in as a software developer and my career, and how. I was able to reach my goals to some extent. To some extent. There's always new goals.
We have not said this, but Matteo is from Italy, but we're talking in English for you now. So Matteo, how did you get started? Because I'm really interested. I wanted to do you this question, and now I'll sit here and I listen to you.
How I did get started? Well, long time ago. Once upon a time, my dad had a Commodore 64 in the house when I was a young kid, and he was typing video games. Like in order to play video games in Commodore 64, he actually bought magazines and then he was typing the games.
I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry now.
And I was literally, we're talking about 32 years ago, he was typing those games with me on his lap. So, and then, I started, more or less, I started to type on the computer when I started to write and read, essentially. And then I started to do, I started to code something like little games with some kids, like the precursor of Scratch. There's a kids thing that you can. The ancestor of that of 30 years ago. Okay, there was a game on that thing, a visual thing on the Amiga that you can use to code those type of games, and that's what I've done. Then after that, I did some basic when I was later when we had the 486 at home. So we started doing some basic. I still have the Borland basic. It's over there. The Borland Q basic.
I had a Commodore 64 and a 486. So
I have started doing that. Then I was when it was like 11 or I won 12 or something. I was the internet arrived in Italy, so we were part of the first batch where there was the internet was not done by Telecom. There was done by a company called Italian Line. And if you look at this Italian Line was it was a network provider that offered all in one page a search experience on the internet, an email, and some news service, and a lot of other things. And it looks a lot like what Google is today, but that was a failed Italian company essentially that went to nowhere. Yeah. And it's such a huge shame. But at that point in time, it was like let me see if I can find it. Italia Online. It was Wikipedia, like something like all something like, oh no, earlier than that. It's well, something like long time ago. Couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that when I was 15, I was the only one in my class who actually had the internet connection. So I was actually speaking about that. Nobody even know what the internet was. So this is kind of strange. Yeah.
Yeah, that's long ago.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that was my journey. Then there was GeoCities, the GeoCities phase, and the animated GIFs, and HTML, and Dreamweaver, and all sorts of things. Then there was a script kiddie moment of my life of a few years of script kiddie hacking.
Yeah.
That's that was not fully legal type of thing. So I'm not completely. I'm putting some parentheses. Okay, just mentioning the fact. Okay. Yeah. I almost got caught, so I stopped. And then after that, we have done, after that, I built some PHP things for a game. So it was like, there was these, I don't know, I was a really fan of Neverwinter Nights. I don't know if you were.
I had that game. I played that.
And I was on the team managing the Italian platform for that.
Yeah.
Reami Perduti, I think, something like that, or whatever. I was managing the Italian, one of the managers of the Italian community of that.
Yeah.
And final, but not at the end of it. Then I going into uni, and I went to uni. So, and I already was a pretty good developer at the time, essentially. So I had a lot of fun at uni, studying distributed system and, researching stuff. I also did so many hours of English school that it was not nice, but it was desperately needed. So my English was really bad. And I started going to English school like 3 times per week to cover to backtrack that. Yeah. And which is probably the biggest challenge of every single person, every single developer in Italy, is their English level, and that's the main blocker for their careers, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem from my point of view, because you cannot even participate in the global market, essentially.
Yeah, or at least understand that, at least listen to that.
Yeah, and it's not so. Our thing about our job about as developers is to a lot of people will think that our job is to code. Okay, and be really good at what we do, coding. Unfortunately, that's not true. Coding, it's a skill that you need to have. However, if you want to build a product, there is too much work for one single developer. And you need to work as a team to deliver that. And, the working as a team goes back into the hunter-gatherers of so many millennia ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. There is a few million years between then and now. And we communicate, using words. And we need to communicate with others. And communication is actually one of the key skills that a lot of people neglect. And they think, oh, I'm just a software developer. I'll just sit there watching my computer all the time. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, I understand perfectly what you say. I think that sometimes you need years before understanding this. Someone they really need some time to understand this, but this is really the key. What you're saying probably is the best advice I had in this series by now, because yeah, you're actually
so
saying.
I can give you more. Okay, so if you are a junior developer and you don't and you want to make yourself a name and grow within a team and a company, it is advice. Do the work that others don't want to do. Don't be the first one that wants to pick. Do the boring things. Okay, take minutes from meetings. Help out with all the small things. Okay, do the grunt work on GitHub or on the code base that nobody wants ever to do. Do the big refactoring that a lot of people don't want to do. Now, all of this, it might sound not important. Well, it's very important, because by doing that, you will really refine either your communication skills or your management skills or all the build blocks to have a very good career. It's learn how to make those tasks easy and take very little effort in doing those tasks. Note that a lot of very senior person on the team would find doing some, the same trivial thing all the time, that is it's boring, and they won't like to do them because they have their heads in some other big programs. By relieving them of the burden of those trivial things, you actually make them very, very, essentially, you're making those people depend on you to do stuff. And essentially they will, in their growth, they will bring you up with them.
No, this is great. And yeah, I think I've never heard this kind of advice said in this way, because yeah, maybe some basic stuff, some basic tips, but what you say, I think it seems that maybe it's what you did. I
did something completely different. So okay. I'm telling what I would have liked to know. Okay. Yeah. I'm not telling what I did. Okay. Essentially what I did was completely different to some extent. Well, I was I took one of those like gruel tasks on my first week. So after uni, I straight went a perm job. Now getting a perm job in Italy, it's a big thing for some reason. Okay, it's believed to be a big thing for some reason. So I accepted. Now I'm still being here. It's something that I keep close to my heart. That in my first contract, okay, it was written that I was a specialized factory worker. That was my qualification, my internal qualification, yeah. Specialized factory worker. Yeah. Okay, sorry to be saying this. So that's my starting point. I was coding, but the company thought that I was a specialized factory worker. And or you can also choose, the contractors choose yeah. Because in Italy we have national contracts and stuff. So yeah. The level was the one of the specialized factory worker or shop assistants with experience. So you could, okay. That was two big pillars, yeah. Okay? Yeah. And, I was definitely paid as such. In fairness, yeah. Okay? And this was my first job. So I did not have any of those fancy junior Valley contract, essentially of 100 and something, of 110, 100K. No, I didn't start that way. Okay, nope. Yeah. Nothing even close to that. Yeah. So anyway, I did that job, and as part of that job, one of the first tasks I did was they give me a big refactoring of a massive Java code base to do. And the problem was that even Eclipse to do the refactoring was crashing because there was like too many files.
I'm suffering. I'm still suffering from
Wait,
you.
the estimation from my manager was that it will take one month to do it, and I wish we should take all the time I wanted because it was boring to hell, and I was a junior member of the team. Okay.
Yeah.
And well, what I've done was instead of doing it, I wrote a 1,000-line bash script using sed and AWK and awk and find and grep and all those things to do it for me. And I finished it in 3 days.
Well,
now I was slapped on the face because it was a consulting company and they sold to the client that it would take a month to do it, and now I've done it in 3 days. So it was a big problem for them.
So a bad job.
Anyway, I didn't do a very good job there. Okay, I'm just mentioning if you want to start doing the small things and work as a company that appreciate those small things. There is a big. My big advice is to focus on the glue work in general, as for juniors. The reason is you can see that a lot of places, glue work is not really appreciated or whatever. The point is that glue work is what will lead to you to have a career, especially if you want to be team lead or if you want to grow past that, being team lead into some bigger position. That is what you will bring you up, essentially.
Yeah, because you understand what's going on, basically.
You understand that the dynamics between people.
Yeah.
Okay? And you make people works better. Note that I'm a true believer that a leader is of the servant leadership concept. So essentially, as a leader, your job is to enable others to be their best. So it's you are, as a leader, you are a servant of your teams and your developers, not vice versa. So it's not that you are doing something. Okay, it's not that you are telling people what to do. It's more on what can I do for you? What can I do to enable you to reach those goals?
Yeah, I think I've seen sometimes the difference between being a boss and a leader. Something like that.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Yeah.
There is a difference.
Yeah.
So there is a total difference. So anyway, this was my first job. I really loved my first job so much. And after 1 year, I decided I was done with the Italian industry. Okay. And I went back to do a PhD.
Oh. This is okay. This was not expected at all, but I was expecting. I went hunting somewhere, but yeah. So
no, I tried Google, I tried ThoughtWorks, I tried a lot of big I did a lot of interviews. You see all juniors that struggle to do the interviews, and then you say, "Oh, you're flashy on Twitter, YouTube, or whatever, or conference, open source, blah blah blah." I failed so many interviews. And I was at a point of, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
So I'm going back and I'm doing a PhD.
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing myself working for an Italian company at that time. Because I was not making the experience, you could do 10 years of experience, or you can do 1 year of experience 10 times. And what I was seeing myself was doing 1 year of experience 10 times. Now, there is a lot of very good people in the Italian industry that work really well, okay? And there's a lot of friends on my first job and the rest.
Yeah.
So I still love them, and I still like the company to some extent. It was I really learned a lot there. So I'm very grateful and so on. I was not seeing myself into growing where I wanted to be on there, and I had to kind of reset my journey. So I went back, did a PhD, and in the Internet of Things. So as part of my Internet of Things, as part of my journey, I was alone. I needed to code my things, connect devices, and this was 2010.
Okay.
Okay, and what happened was that more or less when I started my PhD, NodeJS came out. And I was a really huge fan of Ruby and of the development that I could develop things quickly with Ruby. But Ruby had a big problem. It was very slow. When you're doing stuff for in academia and stuff, often you need to do benchmarks, you need to produce graphs, you need to do a lot of things. Using a language that is so slow like Ruby is, you will not be able to, was not feasible. Also, it was not really built to handle a massively scalable, connect massively scalable number of devices at any given time. So I ended up, Node thing, this is super fast. It's JavaScript, I can code things quickly. Great ecosystem on NPM, okay? It has 10,000 libraries. By the way, now it's like 1.5 million or something, but it was around 10,000 libraries. At the time, it is so huge.
Yeah.
And I started coding with Node, and I use Node for all of my research. And as part of that, I went visiting a university in Ireland called Derry. It was in Galway. By the way, Galway is a fantastic place. I can tell. I've been all over for conference.
Yeah, I think
you went there.
That I have been to Galway. I think because I did like an Ireland two or three road trip coast to coast. Sorry for the off topic. And I drove on the left side on the ring of on the ring of Kerry. It was like crazy.
Nice. You got the experience. So okay, I have a few trips to say about Ireland. Okay, when I was in Ireland. No, it's not off topic. It's totally on topic. We can talk about Ireland. Nearform is an Irish company, so we can talk about Ireland. It's just about the time.
You can do whatever you want.
This was about 2013, and when I was there, I was starting developing my Node modules. I was starting putting out stuff, and I was putting out open source like there was no tomorrow. And I was instead of socializing in Galway, I was literally coding. Instead of getting drunk in Galway, okay, because that's what you do in Galway, I was coding a lot. And a part of that, I tweeted somebody I admired, Dominic Tarr, which was one of the key authors of most of the modules on NPM at that point in time. He's kind of the godfather of node streams, essentially. Now we can talk about node streams. It's a problematic topic, but it's interesting. Anyway, I tweeted to him. I sent him a tweet, and he got. And he said, "Well, I am in Ireland as well. I work for a company called Nearform, and it's down in the south of Ireland in Waterford." And they were just like, "Okay, I'm in Galway, so I can drive down." So after that, Nearform at the point in time was an 8-people company, 8. And me and my girlfriend drove down to Tramore, which was to Waterford, and then Tramore, which is down on the coast of the south of Ireland. And we went and had dinner with Kian, Dominic Tarr, Richard Rogers, and a bunch of other folks in there. And it's in a restaurant called the Victoria House. And if you pass and travel through Ireland, you should pass through Tramore and sit and have a pint at the Victoria House this was also a key location of the few NodeConf views that we have run in the Waterfall Castle. So again, part of the Node story to some extent. And you should definitely have a Metal Man beer, which is the local brewery of the town.
It's all recorded, so I can also watch this again. So when I go back to Ireland, because I want to go back there.
And it's that was at that point in time was the summer of 2013, and I was still having my grant as a PhD for my PhD, so I couldn't really start. My grant finished at the end of 2013, so beginning of 2014 started working part-time for Nearform because I was still finishing my PhD, and then I started as a software developer at that time essentially. So I started as a software dev, and part-time. Then after I did my defense and finished my thesis, because I had no grant, so I had to work. I had no money really, so I had to find a job.
Yeah.
And there was literally no work, either that or Nearform was paying more than what my professor offered me essentially. So I decided to finish to finish my grant, to finish my PhD, and then go work for Nearform. And I went work for Nearform remotely, and then started traveling to Ireland, to conference, traveling the world essentially. And I've kind of been everywhere to some extent on that side of things. And I've done all possible tasks that you can imagine doing at a small company. You do. Now we are close to 150, like we are around 150 people. So, I've been number 14 there. So it was kind of a big journey. And in the meanwhile, I did a lot of NodeJS modules, key stuff, and so on and so forth. So it was, I hope it's inspiring for people in the sense of you never don't give up and believe in yourself essentially, and things will happen. By the way, I set myself a few key goals, and at some point I reached those goals. And when you do that, and those goals were, I wanted to work remotely, be a recognized software conference speakers, and produce some popular open source. So once I reached those goals, I was a little bit in trouble because I probably dreamed not big enough. I didn't dream big enough, and it was a very, very bad, a big existential crisis almost, because I didn't have a drive for a while, and that drive was troubling for me. And after that, I was able to clear my head, understand where I wanted to be, and we'll see if I'll be successful or not in the new goals, but I'm not telling. Yeah. So I'm now a technical director at Nearform, essentially. I manage teams for multiple clients at Nearform. I really like my job, to be honest. Yeah. But I spend so much time on Zoom and not enough time on coding, even though my GitHub would tell otherwise. So if you go into, I spend most of my job, it's about doing Zoom meetings, actually. But the reality is that I'm doing, 4,400 commits per year, contributions per year or something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe last year I checked the first 100 contributors to GitHub, and you were among them, I think.
I am on that list. Yes, I am. I'm part of that list. I was last year. It was higher than it was. It's now. So before the pandemic, I was. So before I became a technical director, I was hovering at maybe 5,000 contributions per year.
Okay.
And after becoming a technical director, I lowered it because I had less time for coding to 4,000 contributions per year, more or less.
Well, not that low. Still not that low.
And now with the pandemic, I have more time because I'm not traveling anymore.
Yeah,
so 4,500.
Yeah, we have all more time, basically. Yeah.
Essentially, yes. But it's most of my time really is spent doing code reviews, essentially. So I review a lot of code on GitHub.
Tell us something about, because sometimes I see your tweets. Please follow Matteo.
Yeah, I am really, I'm really upset. Like most of the time. So let me tell you, this is a very important thing to say in this, because after a while I probably have another thing starting in 10 minutes. So we'll need to finish soon. But I wanted to. So a lot of time, people like open random things on GitHub, okay, on my projects. And, from the range of, oh, you need to support me. I have a bug and you have the responsibility to help me. No, I don't. If you do, I will tweet about it. So, that's the basic rule of my mental health is more important. So every single rant that I do on Twitter about open source and open source entitlement is definitely coming from real world experience. 100% of it.
Yeah, I read your tweets, but listening to that from your voice, it's different. It's better.
I will I probably put some color into those things before that in person, and I will say out loud, and then I will put some more milder tone on Twitter. Those are mild. Yeah. In my
it's polite.
Polite. I came from an area of Italy where we use very colorful language.
Yeah,
so,
I know that. Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing.
So if you have like 5 minutes, 6 minutes,
I do.
I'd like you to talk as fast as you can about your experience with Pino and Fastify. Please do that in 6 minutes. This is a challenge.
I can. I can do that. So again, this is about boring problems. Logging is a heck of a boring problem. Nobody wants to, most developers spend a huge amount of time coding logs, and you need to log everything. I don't know how much, Francesco, how much you need to log in your application, but everybody logs a lot, okay? And nobody does anything with those logs, or mostly nothing, but they need to be there for whatever reason you want them to be. So no, there are reasons, of course, business reasons to keep the logs, okay? But it's hard. So I started. But all those logs are actually like a big problem because it's I/O and CPU time that is spent generating those, and I spent archiving and moving them around. I've seen that logging was a big bottleneck in NodeJS applications, and I've started working a lot on that. And by working a lot, and then I started writing a logger with a friend of mine, David McClemens. Then I was joined by another friend called James Sumners. And we developed this logger called Pino, which is, I think, version 6 now. And it's probably the fastest logger for Node.js. And it's really nice, to be honest. It's really nice to use. It's very simple. It doesn't have much features. It has some options though, so you can configure it more or less to do what you want. It spits out new line limited JSON, and it has been a blast in the sense that it was really solving a lot of problems. It's simple. It's Docker friendly to some extent, so you can deploy it on. It's built for.
That's good.
It's not built. It's built with the concept of your logger should not rotate files, okay? And if you think your logger should rotate files, don't use Pino, and then suffer the consequences. So after Pino was successful, I did a very nice conference talk called The Cost of Logging, which Francesco will link in together with this video.
Whenever you want, we'll link.
Okay, so there is a talk, which is a duo act with David McClemens, which is a really fun talk. and it was a duo act, and we did in San Francisco at Node Summit. And it was, wow, what an experience. Well, you'd have a go speaking at a conference in San Francisco, tech conference San Francisco, you know, all paid. It's a nice experience, I would say. I really like San Francisco. Minus the homeless people that they have a problem there, but you know, it's a little bit unsettling to some extent. Anyway, I really love being in the heart of technology, essentially, in the heart of technology. So going back to Pino went really well, and it got a nice uptick, and it's still being used a lot. Like I think it's downloaded like a few million times per month now, or something. So, which is, you know, I called it being wildly successful from my point of view. It's it's growth and more. It's basically 1,200,000 per week. Pretty amazing.
Wow.
Okay. So it's for something that was born between two friends, like coding stuff. It was pretty nice indeed. So anyway, Pino, it's at 5 million downloads per month or something like that. Anyway, it's and so we got Pino, and Pino. After Pino, I was just like, oh, maybe I wanted to do what's next. Well, next was building a new web framework. And I have a long talk on how that framework was born, which is I'm not going to cover because we are almost running out of time. Yeah. So it's that I've done at the latest OpenJS interactive, OpenJS World, sorry, the one that was the last one that we have done in last June, and it was really nice. It was about build a community, not a framework. And it's about how Fastify was born. Yeah. Essentially, I teach a NodeJS course through a company called Avanscoperta here in Bologna. And which is actually almost like very cheap. Like it's maybe, I don't know, for 2 days of training it was cheap from my point of view, but everybody was perceiving it very expensive, whatever. And then at that course I met Thomas Della Vedova, which was a young junior and they were just starting on moving on the first steps in the industry. And he asked me, well, I would like to get started on open source. What should I do? Well, we can work on this thing together. And then we started working and building a web framework together. And Fastify was then born. Then the problem is it took like 10 contributors, 10, 12 contributors, and a lot of companies using it to actually find and fix all the bugs. So it was a lot of more work than what I would ever expect it to be. So
it's always like that. you start so small and then it grows. So
it grows. It grows and grows. By the way, just a lot of people might not know. I've been shocked to check on this. So I am on track to reach 5 billion downloads on NPM by the end of the year.
Yeah. Wow.
That's my day. I'm just like, ouch. Okay. So anyway, that was a sudden realization on this. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have two more minutes? Or
yeah, I can take. I have to go, but I can take 2 more minutes.
Yeah, please tell me something about public speaking in like 2 minutes, because I did like just one talk. I also. I think that I sent you a message about that. So what would you suggest to someone who wants to try to do his first public speaking?
Okay.
Maybe he's not brave enough. I don't know.
You need to buy this book and this book.
Okay.
Study them. Buy the paperback. Buy the paper version, because they are full of images and so on. So that you need to you will. It also talk about the color theory and how to structure your slides. and your material, how to speak. It's those books are really, 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 really key. And there is a third that I bought digital. So again, but it was not just the same experience.
Check them. I think I'll check them because I did just one speech.
Gar Reynolds, okay? Gar Reynolds presentation. Then you should buy those.
Yeah, basically I did this speech, but it was just my first one. I got quite a lot of questions about that, so I think it went pretty well. If you get questions, I think at least it was interesting. Yeah, so I really don't know if I want to do just like that. I think I keep going coding anyway, but yeah, it's something that it's really interesting for me. So that's it. Matteo, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Matteo Collina. Yeah. At Matteo Collina on Twitter. Just tweet me. I normally reply if you tweet me. If it's not overwhelmed, I'm very active.
Or maybe you are active or sleeping in that case.
Active or sleeping.
Yeah. And you are actually the first person that I followed on Twitter.
Oh, nice.
You are the first person that. When I scroll the people I follow, you are the first one.
Oh wow! I am completely
or the older one. I don't know. Yeah, but you are the first. Yeah, because I downloaded Twitter like 10 years ago, but I started using this just this year, probably because of pandemic. My account did pretty well, but that's it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Francesco. I really love being here.
Yeah, I really wanted an Italian guest because I had already kind of a lot of guests, but I was really hunting for an Italian one.
So you got one. Come on. I was very happy to be here. So
thank you so much.
Very, very happy.
Thank you so much, Matteo.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye. Bye. Bye.